time is it? It's awfully early for this shit. It is. My fucking knuckles are all fucked up from punching doors. This is my house, motherfucker. I need to take care of it. Yes, Elvis is dead. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Of course he's been dead a long time, dude. He's been dead fucking 40 fucking 6 years or something. Of course he's dead. Now I told you, like, I told you before, like around 10 years after Elvis died in like 1988, somewhere in the early 80s, someone had suggested the idea. I don't know how that ever took off. Think about that. Elvis seen at a shopping mall or some shit. It's like, after the king wasn't looking all that great around the time he died. He looked like an ordinary 40-year-old man. He looked kind of like me or something. People were seeing him all over, like trailer parks and at the store, and it's like, yeah, you just saw a fat redneck guy with a lot of grease in his hair. Son, there was a gas station down the street from my house where I could have sworn the guy was Elvis. He looked like an old fat Elvis with gray mutton chop, boom, and a big fucking with Brill cream or blue velvet in his hair. I'm like, that could be the king. Magazines, like back then they had tabloid magazines, which were fun, like the Star and the Inquirer, and they need to fill it with fodder. They even had back in the 80s, there was numbers you could call. Telephone, by telephone you can call and listen to the latest updates and Elvis sightings. They even had shit for your kids where you can call and be directly billed, and your kid would be home from school all day calling 800 or 900 numbers, running up a fucking bill that was directly billed to your telephone. You'd get your telephone bill for $250 and beat your kid over it. Telephone psychics, I remember the New Kids on the Block. You can call and listen to and be directly billed and listen to the latest messages from the New Kids on the Block. The thing is, in a culture, 10 years after Elvis died, people missed him, and there was a resurgence of that. Elvis was dead. The Memphis Mafia was still alive then. They couldn't keep a fucking secret. They wrote a goddamn expose about him. Don't you think that they would write another book, The King's Alive? They couldn't keep their mouth shut. No, he was dead. When Paul McCartney died, I don't know what that was about. It could have been... It seems like somebody that was speed-addled fucking looked way too far into the songs and into the album covers, and they'd see inverted pictures, and, oh, he's wearing something on the left, but on the front cover it's on the right. Well, they inverted the film. Shit like that, and people just looked into it so fucking much. If, in fact, Paul McCartney died, I'm convinced in my head, if it was generated, it could be generated by the band or publishing to do something with the name Lennon, McCartney. I don't know how far they would have to go to do something like that. Maybe the guy just wanted a fucking vacation. There's only one Paul McCartney. The guy was a physical anomaly. I mean, he still is. He's a gorgeous specimen of a fucking human. They don't, there's not very many Paul McCartney. And plus, the talent level that we're talking about, you're not going to get another fucking McCartney. Not only were they beautiful physical specimens, they were adept musicians. And every now and again, you'll hear something about Paul McCartney's bass playing. It's like, I don't even want to hear that. The guy took bass playing to a new goddamn level, was so melodic. The shit he was doing on that piece of shit bass from Germany, which I love, is my favorite instrument in the world, is the Hofner bass. It's the shit he did with it, with that fucking bass. He never got the credit and not only was he like the world's greatest bass player, if you ask me, Uh, he's like the world's greatest singer and world's greatest songwriter. It's not gonna happen. You can't. I can't even replace my piece of shit band that fucking disappeared 25 years ago. I can't even replace them. It's not gonna happen. You could scour the fucking world. The Beatles were a fucking thing, a blip on a map, and Brian Epstein was just amazing. If he just held out a little bit longer and realized he still could have, he was their theatrical manager. And when the Beatles didn't want to tour anymore, he thought his life was over. But then you want to talk about me. You always want to show me these McCartney videos and put comments in like you think that I think I'm McCartney because I had to do a job 25 fucking years ago or something. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't talented enough to do that. They came to me, this group of guys, this group, I was in a Beatles tribute band, this group of impersonators came to me through another friend, and they said, something came up with our bass player. We need a guy right away that can play McCartney. And the first thing I said to him was, I can't play bass lines and sing. I'm a guitar player. I can't do that, and I don't sound like McCartney. And although he was my idol at the time, always, and they said, no, you can do it. I said, I'm not left-handed, and I don't have a bass. We'll get you the bass. You can play right-handed, and we'll buy your clothes for you, and you got to wear a wig and shit. Now, I don't look like Paul McCartney on my best day. I don't look whatsoever. I studied what goes on in the impersonator life. You don't have to. I took a look at around 2000 in the millennia, there was an insurgence of tribute impersonator bands. Like, this guy is so jealous with me. He wants to fuck with me all the time over something I did 25 fucking years ago. And the way I looked at it is, we're going to be on stage about 30 feet high up on a fucking 8-foot stage, away from the crowd. They're not going to see us. And I took a look at the other guys in the band, and I'm like, well, 2 of those guys were in my band. And they're about as attractive as I am, but we don't look like the fucking Beatles. And then I took a look at the guy I was replacing, a big, fat, drunk dude with a big gut, wearing a Sgt. Pepper fucking green thing. And I'm like, that's your McCartney? I could definitely do that. Okay, I could replace your McCartney. Don't talk about me. The real McCartney was gorgeous, not like this. And what about my George and my Lennon? We did not look like the Beatles. You're always telling me that you didn't play. It's like, how did we get all that money then? You don't have to look like them. What we had was something special because we had a guy that wore makeup and wore the wigs, and he looked like Lennon. He even got in a movie. I don't want to have to defend something from 25 fucking years ago. What do you want, your money back? I got to play opera houses, 3,000 seat fucking places, doing it. Standing ovations, people wearing suits, $25 a ticket back then. On the news, shit like that. Most of the Beatle tribute bands were fat, drunk, old men that couldn't play whatsoever, let alone Beatle music. I was an expert on the Beatles. The Lennon guy we had was a good Lennon. He was the only motherfucker around that looked like Lennon. As far as I could see, he looked just like him. That was enough for us to go over to. That's why we were the best. You think tribute bands look exactly like... It's easy to be an Elvis impersonator, isn't it? That's real easy. It's only one dude. All you need is the pompadour. And you can't sing. To recreate the Beatles with a bunch of guys in wheelchairs would be an amazing feat for anyone. I don't care if you could get if you could find me 4 black Beatles or 4 Latino Beatles, if they can play like the Beatles, you've done something magical, and maybe people should pay money for it. We're not up there. What do you think? We're up there with tennis rackets, fucking making believe, hey, we're having a fantasy. It was hard fucking work. Not for me. I loved every minute of it. It was a mental challenge. I had to sit down, open that Beatles book. I didn't even use it. I'm like, I can't read music, and I hate reading tab, and I don't know where the codas end with this shit. I'm going to learn it by ear. No, use the music. No, I learned it by ear. 200 songs. And then I came and did my fucking thing. That should be celebrated. Not the way I hold the bass or the way we did the best we could with the monies we had. And I did great shit. And that's it. The real Paul was, I don't go around fucking thinking I'm Paul. I never did. That's ridiculous. Never mind the Beatles. Never mind the records he put out. They just released his box set of singles alone, because singles were big in England. You know, side A, side B, 2-song fucking thing. He's got 80 fucking singles. That's not counting the Beatles. We're talking through Wings and through his personal shit. There's never gonna be a McCartney ever again. Especially now. Not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. You could scour the fucking world for a lot of reasons. They don't make, nobody plays instruments anymore. Nobody writes songs anymore. That's a dead craft. We gave joy to children, and to disabled children, and to old people, and to middle-aged people out on dates. They used to run around and play and kowtow to our fancy and curry to our fancy, skip to our fucking loo they used to. You know what I'm saying? We had an itinerary. We had a schedule. We had obligations and engagements. We were pushed to stand straight up, be at our best attention, be presentable. My thing was to hide. I was always hiding in the dressing room all day. We'd come out, we'd play on a Sunday when business was slow. We'd come out and play for a bunch of, architects and rich people and shit. We'd come out, or we'd play at a museum or a casino, and we'd come out and play 2 sets. No. Most of the time it was 4 sets. What am I thinking? I still have the set list somewhere around here. The set list. And, but for, we'd give you, most of the time, we'd give you 2 shows, 45 minutes apiece with an intermission. And we'd go through, we'd come out with the young Beatles. I always wanted to do the Beatles in leather and shit like that. They didn't want to do that. But I wanted to do that. I wanted to start it off like that. But we started off with the English Beatles, with the suits, the purple suits, the gray suits. Then we'd go into our Beatles for Sale, Rubber Soul period, where we would change our clothes and we'd put the turtlenecks on. And I wore a wig. And I looked great. I looked great. I looked like a young me. I looked like a 27-year-old me, I think, or something. Or however old I was, with a wig on. We all wore wigs. Nobody could grow that Beatle hair. Even the Lennon guy had a wig, and he had long hair. But he didn't have Lennon hair. I didn't like my wig, so I cut it, and they all got pissed. And then when they seen it, they're like, "Oh, that looks great." Yeah, I don't want to look like an asshole up there. I don't want to look. The first wig they gave me, I looked like fucking Janet from fucking Three's Company. I looked like Prince or something. I'm like, I'm not wearing this fucking thing. So I cut it down and I put pins in it underneath it. Wanted to be comfortable. We had $1,000 Beatle boots. I didn't get to keep them, but I could wear them. And they hurt. They were hard to walk in. The Italian boots, because we had to jump up and down to load equipment, and I'm not used to jumping in high heels. We got to do that. They got me a 1967 Italian Hofner I could play. So yeah, I did that. Yeah, I got paid. I don't care what you think. Of course Paul McCartney's gorgeous. He's more gorgeous than anybody. Not only was he gorgeous, like I said, he wrote all that. That's his baby. That's his shit. That's his. We did that. I always thought at the time I had morals and convictions. I thought it was wrong that we might be taking money for doing this without giving any kickback. But it didn't matter because I had bills to pay too. And I went there and I gave it my all. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I learned more in that band than I ever learned ever. I learned the business. And believe me, I wanted to die after a while too, just like Paul. I wasn't even on that level. I just wanted to die. Couldn't take it. There's a lot of pressure on you. Like I said, you're around children. They want your autograph after they hear you play. Yeah, shit like that. Shit that blew my mind. I'm like, why do you want my autograph? You want mine? What am I supposed to write? I remember asking the George guy, my friend Alex, I'm like, I said, what the fuck am I supposed to write for this kid's autograph here? He said, just sign your name. I'm like, and that's what it was. They'd have people come up and we'd sign their shit, That was my question. Am I supposed to write Paul McCartney? Like, Fall McCartney? Billy, who am I? Billy Shears? What do I write here? No, I did that. You're not even supposed to know about that. I did that as a favor for people, and I did it to better myself financially, but most importantly, I had been a Beatles fan since I can't even remember. I think 4 or 5 is my first memories of the Beatles. 4 or 5 years old, and I was a musician. And like I said, I had not learned. I couldn't even play Beatles songs on guitar at that point. But I just connected with the bass. I think I was so happy to have that bass when they gave it to me to learn the songs and the way it sounded. They gave me cork picks and plectrums and felt plectrums to play with. And I would roll the treble off on the Hofner and put it through a big fucking Vince Trainer amp. And it would sound awesome. It would sound like the beginning of I Feel Fine. Ooh. Yep. No. Yep. There's just too much. There's not enough time in the world to talk about Beatles, and it seems like it's sad because these days no one even cares about the Beatles. No one cares about Elvis, and that makes me sad. But it's always something I go back to religiously. It's my shit. It was my shit. I used to have people back in my day telling me, it's my music, it's my generation. Like, clearly, but what do you want back? My music is from my generation. Where do you get off playing the Paul McCartney? You think you're fucking Paul McCartney? No, I don't. And like I said, the thing that I liked, there was enough space, like a lot of space, like the space between us, there was a lot of space. And from far, from 50 feet away, back with a skinny me, back, with my, the right hair and shit, you might have thought that I was fucking him, if you closed your eyes and hope. And that's what a lot of those people wanted. And then of course, you get this guy that's sitting there the whole time, like, fucking, or the, these dudes that, like, sitting there the whole time and fucking, I look fat with this jacket like that. But, yeah, they're usually right in the front, those fuckers. Yeah. They're usually right in the fucking front row, and they're just staring at you. And you could see them 30 feet away. You could feel their eyes. Because the lighting in those opera houses, or whatever you want to call them, those auditoriums, those modern-day school auditorium-looking things that are 3,000 seaters and two balconies, the lights are different. It's not like a club. You can see when you're on that stage. It's weird. They don't really dim the lights. What I didn't like to do with that was do yesterday, because I had heard it so many times that all the words just jumble into each other, and that's that with that. And I couldn't ever remember the words of something simple as yesterday because I had heard it so many fucking times. But we do it, and nobody would know. I gotta fix this camera. It's on an angle. I look ultra fat like that. I'm not. But whatever. I don't even care. Sick of hearing about it though. You've been doing that for a long time. What do you think? You're fucking Paul McCartney or some shit? No, I don't. I don't think I'm Paul McCartney. It's ridiculous.